Hello and welcome to Leicestershire, not far from Market Harbour near the village of Foxton. It's Foxton Locks and its unique inclined plane. Here we can see the locks at Foxton, or at least the upper set of 5. These are staircase locks, so called because the lower gate of one lock is the upper gate of the next one down the line. They're only narrow gauge locks at 7 foot width. Initially the use of the narrow gauge was so the Canal Company could actually save money. Built between 1810 and 1814, the canal here is raised through 10 locks in 2 flights of 5 by 75 feet. Once the summit is reached, the canal then runs unhindered by locks for over 20 miles until it reaches Watford. Built as part of the original Grand Union Canal, the route was a very important one, for it was down this route that coals from Nottinghamshire, Derbyshire and Leicestershire coalfields travelled south to London. In 1894 the canal was taken over by the Grand Junction Canal, who realised that the locks at Foxton and those at Watford, being narrow gauge, were holding up traffic, trade that was likely to leave the canal system and go on to systems such as the roads and the railways that were becoming popular. However, a solution was needed to be found. Enter Gordon Cale Thomas, an engineer who devised the marvellous Foxton Inclined plane. The inclined plane ran on a counterweight system. Each slope was 1 in 4 in gradient. Set into the slope were concrete beds for the rails, 4 sets on each. Running on these was a large tank, capable of carrying 2 fully laden narrowboats or a barge, each tank weighing 240 tons. Today the inclined plane can still be seen, but much of the metalwork has been removed. To enter the plane you would have taken the fork to the right, just above the locks. This would have taken you down through a stop lock and then on through the arm of the canal to the top of the inclined plane, which now looks like this. The stop lock has been newly refurbished and the canal here is now in water all the way to the top of the plane and is a haven for wildlife. There's a very pleasant walk to be had along the arm of the canal as it nears the plane top. A new bridge has been placed across the arm so that we can cross it and get on top of the plane. This is actually about 50 feet short of the dock wall. And here's where the tanks would have docked. The far side, where the old barge is, would have had an aqueduct that would have extended halfway across the plane to this red brickwork. And if you look on the top of the blue brickwork, a new viewing gallery has been included to give a good view of the plane. Set in the floor of the viewing gallery is this plaque which states that the boat lift only operated from 1900 to 1911. The closure of Foxton Inclined plane can be mainly attributed to the locks at the Watford end of the main pound. These were kept as narrow gauge, and the hope for increase in traffic never materialised, as they were still a bottleneck. The locks were then restored and the plane closed down and allowed to deteriorate. All the metalwork was removed around 1927 and the work of 300 men was allowed to return to nature. Our story in fact doesn't end there. We carry on with this building, which was once the boiler house for the Foxton Inclined plane. Now rebuilt in 1980 by members of the Foxton Inclined Plane Trust, it houses the small Foxton Canal Museum. the back wall of which is the only original wall left of the building. There's a fine collection of canal artifacts and memorabilia, and is well worth a visit. Examples of the fine work of the Foxton Inclined Plain Trust abound around the site. Here we can see the lower dock area of the inclined plane taken in March 2006. At that time the area was delegated as private moorings, hence the fence across the lower half of the inclined plane. Later that year, however, the scene was wholly different. The boats had been removed, so had the water, and restoration was well underway. By 2007 this is what the lower docks looked like. The lower half of the plane was still in need of restoration. However, 2008, and in the month of July, here we see the lower docks now as they are today. The plane now has been restored to the bottom. To really be in awe of the plane, you really have to stand on the bottom dock and look up at this marvellous sight, and imagine those great water tanks coming down into these docks. So how did the plane actually work? Well, a barge would enter under that bridge and come into either dock in front of us or the one behind us, all depending which had the tank waiting. Let's say it's the dock behind us. We're in the tank, the gate comes down, and then it's telegraphed to the top that the tanks are ready to swap places. And away we go, off up the inclined plane. The steam engine that powered the inclined plane was mounted in the white building you can see at the top. This in turn was mounted atop the boiler house we saw earlier. As our tank ascends, we pass the other tank on the other slope going down. And in this close-up shot, notice the guillotine gates that were hydraulically operated on the tank. You have to think these tanks were only powered by a steam engine with 25 horsepower. 25 horsepower to move 480 tons. That's engineering. Eventually our tank arrives at the top dock, where a second set of guillotine gates is on the dock wall. To make a watertight seal against the dock wall, the tank literally is pushed against the dock wall by hydraulic rams shaped like an old railway buffer. Once the seal has been created and the gap between the gates filled with water, the gates can be raised and the boat leave the tank. And here seen in the main car park is a resemblance of one of the guillotine gates, either dock or tank mounted. Foxton certainly is an interesting place, and the Foxton Inclined Plain Trust have been going now for 28 years and done some fantastic work on the site. It is to be hoped they get their wish and one day have the plane running again. But I'm afraid that's all we've got time for this video, so until next time, we'll see you then.